Welcome to Stars Podcast. Through self-defense, mixed martial arts, nutrition, family, and all things in between, we share our journey of how we hack our mind and body to get the maximum return out of each day. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy the journey. Well, hey man, thanks for jumping on. I appreciate it. This is Josh STARLORD Leduc. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's an owner at STARLORD Enterprises, owner of Zapatero Invitational. And I was looking through your link tree, and you have a ton of other stuff going on too. Yeah. First and foremost, is STARLORD from the comic book? Is that where you got it from?
I didn't get it. I was nicknamed it when I was fighting MMA. I used to be on like MMA TV, The Underground. And when I was fighting, I hadn't seen the movies, I hadn't seen anything, I hadn't seen the comic books. And they were like, dude, this guy looks like Star-Lord. So they all started calling me Star-Lord. And I hadn't seen the movies for like 2 years until after the first Guardians of the Galaxy to even see it. And then I kind of...
I definitely see it. Oh, yeah. What am I?
It looks like Star-Lord for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So what is STARLORD Enterprises? What does that umbrella look like?
Yeah, it's basically my holding company for all the different businesses I do. So I do a clothing company, W Nation. I got a coffee company, Wicked Warrior Coffee. I do seminars. I travel and I do consulting for businesses, especially in like jiu-jitsu tournaments and gyms and people's social media and stuff like that. And then it also is the holding company for my tournament, Zapatero Invitational.
So Zapatero Invitational, when did that become your event?
So I founded it in 2015. Our first show was 2016. So it was like Christmas 2015, and then March 2016 was the first show. We've had definitely over 20 events. I've lost track of how many of them. I don't know how Seth and all of those guys keep track of their events once it goes past like 30 of them. But yeah, I've been doing shows since March 2016. Last show was last Saturday. I think it was our 26th event, I'm pretty sure. And I just started doing it because I saw the finishers up there in PA running their shows. And I was like, hey, I think I can do that. And it was a lot harder than it seemed.
Yeah, that's a great point. What was your goal when you first started doing the events? What did you want to accomplish?
Yeah, when we first started, I mean, Morris had collapsed, and there was basically just EBI, you know, and I was a huge fan of that. But there wasn't a lot of professional jiu-jitsu in the Southeast. Like, you had a couple of, like, absolute tournaments you can go win $500 in and things like that. But I just wanted to give the athletes an avenue to make a little bit of money in the local area, you know. And we're down in Florida. There's a lot of talent down here, and everyone thinks that, like, Miami is the hotbed. But I'm on the West Coast, just south of Tampa, and I know we have a ton of killers over here that didn't really get the recognition they deserve. And I just wanted to use it as like a proving ground to get these guys to the next level and get them to make a little bit of money.
So what type of money are you talking about?
I mean, at first it was like a couple rand here and there. We ran some like $10,000 tournaments. We've done bet matches with Gordon Ryan. Like one time Gordon came in, he did a $10,000 bet match against this guy, Todd Muckenheim from New York. And they both put up 10 grand. We put up a little bit of show money. But I mean, it's not like UFC money, you know, like you're not making 50 and 50. But I mean, then again, when you first start in the UFC, like in the Contender Series, you're making 5 and 5. So if you lose the tournament, or if you lose your fight, you're making 5 grand. I mean, we've had tournaments that are more than 5 grand. We have tournaments where it is 5 grand. Like, it's pretty good for jiu-jitsu guys, like, considering the industry standard. Our tournaments always pay more than our super fights and stuff like that. But, I mean, I made a post yesterday. I'm like, if you can show me that you're going to bring in 40 to 50% more what you're asking, I have no problem paying you that, you know? And that's, like, the biggest problem you see in jiu-jitsu and combat sports is, like, just because you're good at that combat sport doesn't mean you can draw the amount of eyeballs and amount of revenue that you think you deserve to be paid.
So it's more about proving yourself and bringing in the fan base. So you want them to already have some sort of fan base if they're asking for more.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking for $5,000 just to show up, you got to show me that you bring in at least 7.5, you know, and then it makes business sense for me to bring you in. But I mean, honestly, I'm not even trying to get in with those big guys. Like, I've done it before. I've worked with Gordon multiple times. The big thing about our show is, like, we've brought these guys to the next stage. So we've had, like, Craig Jones was on our second show. He came back and did a couple other shows before he really blew up. You know, Ethan Krellinston came in, did our qualifiers, won our events, and then he got his shots on, like, Kasai and, you know, won ADCC trials and all that fun stuff. John Calaside won our show before he went on to win EBI. I think it was EBI 11. It was the welterweight one. More than half the bracket were Zapatero events, you know. So that's, like, the big thing I'm trying to do is, like, if EBI comes back, then I want to be a proving ground for that. If they don't come back, I'm going to try to slowly get up to the point where we can take that place. But especially with COVID going on and stuff like that, it's tough to put on, like, $20,000 tournaments, you know, because we're very limited on how many people we can have. Pay-per-view is pretty much dead in jiu-jitsu, and my main goal isn't really to run pay-per-view events. It's to give these guys a platform where they can increase their ability to get on bigger shows by, you know, raising their audience and raising the recognition. So, like, our last show did almost 100,000 eyeballs, you know, just on Facebook alone. We multi-stream on Facebook and YouTube, and we're going to add Twitch in there too, just because we want to put it out there for as many people to see, help give these guys a platform to get more well-known and kind of grow the sport, bring new eyeballs to it.
So being set up to do a lot of virtual, do you find that, you know, I know you have a drawback because you can't have a lot of people physically there. Are you seeing those numbers go up on the streaming side?
But yeah, massively. So the last event, so my qualifier event did like 35,000 eyeballs, okay? And that's about average because we just have a pretty decent fan base already. Like, we're not massive. We got almost 10,000 eyes on Facebook that follow us. Like, my platform on Instagram is like 12,000. So when I go somewhere and I stream somebody else's event, they're pretty much guaranteed to get between 20,000 and 30,000 in the reach department, you know? I went up to Knoxville and streamed the Artemis Invitational. It was a female bracket. It was all blue and purple belts and, like, no real big names. And we're in Knoxville, Tennessee, you know, and they did like 35,000 views. So those are kind of like your average numbers. Then when we do these bigger shows, like, we're trying to get above 100,000. Like, my goal is to eventually get to like 250,000, and that's like a relatively short-term goal. I want to do it within a year from now, put on a big enough card that we can get 250,000 eyeballs over the course of like 48 hours.
So do you have athletes, as I don't want to call them targets, but do you have some athletes on your roster that you're really trying to help promote and to get their fan base up, or is it more an effort to get the Zapatero event bigger in a different avenue?
I think it's a little bit of both, because if the event grows, then we can help grow these guys even more. You know, my big thing is, like, there's a lot, especially with our champions and stuff like that, a lot of the times the guys that win our event aren't the most well-known, you know, but they come in and they beat these guys with massive follower counts, you know. And to me, if we can push those guys and help them grow, it'll help. But I've also realized, like, some guys just don't want to have a big social media. Like, they're never going to have it, you know. Like, John Talasine's a perfect example. I'm getting him to come back in, do a couple of matches. He's won our tournaments before. He's got like 4,000 followers, you know. That guy's the last BDI champion. That guy's a monster.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got 4,000 followers just because he doesn't want to get out there and put himself out there. So, yeah, we try to, like, help these guys grow. You got to be able to do it on your own too, you know. Like, if you're not going to put in the work, you're not going to grow. And this is the same thing when I do social media consulting with people. It's like, you have to put the work in. If you're not out there interacting, you're not out there posting content, you're not out there, like, trying to grow your brand, it's not going to grow. It doesn't happen overnight.
Well, that's why I'd ask, because you do have that social media arm under that link umbrella. And I was wondering if you have any of the athletes as clients.
Yeah, so I used to manage a lot of guys. You know, I had like a roster of 20 guys that I was managing. I even managed Jeff Munson for a while, and he was like a UFC title contender. Like, I've managed guys who've been to ADCC, guys who are winning EBI, guys who were doing big things. And I kind of brought that back just because it's something you see in the industry a lot, is there's a lot of, man, people think they deserve things they don't just because they're good at bending arms, you know? And I'm not about that. I'm about proving yourself, you know? Like, I under-promise, over-deliver all the time. You know, that's my motto. Like, I want to give 51% in the interaction. You know, I never want to feel like I'm owing someone that. And a lot of these guys come in and think they're owed something, and that's the problem, you know? So I've worked with like a handful of guys now, more like 4 or 5 guys, just because they're good people. They understand my philosophy. They're the people that I want to like put my time and effort into, because like, dude, I got a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to sit here and hold somebody's hand and they're going to be like, hey, I want $2,000 to show up. And I'm like, okay, but you have like less than 2,000 people following you on Instagram. How can you justify that to a promoter? And I'm just not dealing with those guys. So yeah, I do manage a couple of those guys. I do consult with a couple of those guys, but it's a lot less than I used to do.
Let me ask you this. If they don't have a big Instagram or social media following, how would someone prove to you that they could bring in more than what you're offering?
Honestly, I don't think you can. I mean, if you can come on a show, like if I have someone that has like 1,000 followers on social media and they want to do $1,000 to show, I'll be like, all right, man, I'll give you 500. Okay. If I really think they deserve it, you know, like if they're an 80cc caliber, like competitor, then I'll give them half of that. And I'll say, hey, you know what? If you can show that you sold these X amount of tickets, or if we're doing a pay-per-view and you brought in X amount of pay-per-view buys, or maybe you brought sponsors with you or something like that, then next event, I have no problem doing that for you. So if I have a client that's trying to get on a show, like they're trying to get on Third Coast or they're trying to get on Kasai, and they're having a hard time getting on, I'll be like, look, dude, do it for free. Like, I'll cover your hotel. I'll make sure you're not losing money on it. Do it for free. Show them that you deserve to be there. Show them that you're easy to work with. Because so much in this sport is like skill levels, unless you're like Gordon Ryan, they're relatively the same, you know? It's how easy are you to work with, what do you bring to the table, and how can you differentiate yourself from the rest of the competition. And sometimes all you need to do is get that foot in the door. So it's an investment in yourself, you know?
You're talking about branding 101.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, one thing, Josh, that I want to interject here. I mean, I'm not a big BJJ guy, but I have a lot of respect for you and from what I've seen so far. And I think you as a person is going to create like these people to come and be drawn to you because of who you are, because of what you're trying to bring to the table. Like, hey, look, you want to sink your teeth in? I'm going to give you a platform for you to get bigger. You know, like you're going to be like, I'm cool with that. Like you were saying, hey, I'll pay for your hotel room. You know what I mean? We'll do it for free. Let's see what you got. And I think you're going to have way more hungry people like coming and saying, yes, like this is my dude. This is the guy I'm going to run with.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like that. You put that energy out in the world, that's what you get back in, you know? So I'm not trying to go right away. We've been in business 5 years, you know? Like, I've done big shows with big names, and I don't enjoy working with those guys because they don't appreciate it as much. If I give you a $10,000 check, it's like, I want at least a thank you. Or like, oh, dude, I'm super grateful, you know?
Right, yeah.
And I get these guys that are like, they make $2,000, and they're like, oh, my God, this is like next level. They're super thankful. They're super grateful. Those are the guys I want to work with. It's exactly what you're saying. Like, I attract a certain type of person. And when I was younger, because, dude, I'm only 26. I started this when I was 21. Dude, actually, I think I started when I was like 20. And I remember going to the bars and like having people sneak me beers with them after. And it was hard to do then and easier to do now, because when I was 20, 21, I wanted to hang out with these guys. I wanted to look up to these guys. I was like, oh man, like I'm sitting right here with Gary Tonin, you know? Like, I remember specifically after the first event, we were at like a Buffalo Wild Wings, and we were watching the UFC. It was Nate Diaz versus Connor, and that was the first time they aired EBI on the UFC's like commercials in between rounds and stuff like that. And I'm sitting next to Gary, and he's up there on the UFC pay-per-view. I'm like, holy shit, I'm sitting next to this guy. Like, what the hell am I doing? So, like, when you're 21, you're like, yeah, whatever you want, dude. Like, I just want to hang out with you. When you're been in the sport for a few years and you've been around these guys, you realize they're normal people, and you realize they're not fucking gods, then you can start negotiating. You can be a little bit more not like, I don't want to ever be a hardball, because I want these guys to make more money. But when I first started, I was like going in the hole big time, you know, like, dude, I started the fucking show on credit cards, you know, fucking defaulting on credit cards and all that shit. And I ended up making it work and coming back. But like, you learn from those mistakes, you know, and it doesn't make good business sense, don't do it. And the biggest thing is, like, with this whole COVID thing, the purses in jiu-jitsu were getting like astronomical, you know, like guys were getting $20,000 for a grappling match, you know, and unless you're Gordon Ryan, I don't think you can say you deserve that, you know, like, I don't care what kind of accolades you have. If you're not doing $30,000 in pay-per-view buys or tickets, you're not getting 20 grand. So this whole COVID thing was a hard reset. And I was talking to a few other promoters, and I was like, look, man, this is going to happen. Like, we just can't keep growing and growing and growing. Like, in jiu-jitsu and grappling in general, you have this weird dynamic of homegrown promoters, and then you have guys like ADCC is a perfect example, right? They're all based off oil money from Abu Dhabi, you know, so they're ridiculously rich. So when they throw on their ADCC events, they go all out, you know, and people think that they can ask for that amount of money because they got paid that by the sheiks in Abu Dhabi. Or like, for a while there was a promotion over in Russia. It was run by literally a Chechen warlord. Like, you had UFC fighters hanging out with these guys, and I'm trying to remember the guy's name, but if you Google it, he's all over there. And he had like war crimes. Like, he was sanctioned by like ridiculous amount of people, but he was paying them like $20,000 just to come hang out with them. So it's like, yeah, that's going to inflate the market. COVID brought us back to like a normal point where, yeah, okay, I can't pay you $20,000. Maybe I'll pay you $5,000, you know, and you take it or leave it. And if you want to stay active, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I think it's funny how COVID like had everybody reset everything, their whole mindset for everything, for business. I mean, we have martial arts academies, like we had to reset going stuff online, streaming, and there was people that were folding because they couldn't do that. They weren't set up for that, but it forced us to set up. So like, you being put, you already had that mindset, like, hey, look, this is like, I'm already in this social media market, like I'm already there, so this is going to be real easy for me. And for you to sit there and say, okay, now everything got reset, money's going back to where people are worth it, it's probably doing you better, because you now let's say you get, you know, 10 people that are worth $5,000 as opposed to having one guy that's worth 20, you know?
Yeah,
so
like, it definitely works out that way. And you're really starting to see people's true colors, you know, the guys who are willing to go out there and compete, because it wasn't that long ago that, I mean, you still see it in the IBJJF, people paid like world champion level guys who ask for $10,000 to show on super fight promotions are paying money to go compete in the IBJJF. So like, it's a weird dynamic. You have those guys that are like, oh, I'll pay for this, but I want X amount to compete on your show. Those guys are starting to like lose business, whereas these guys who are like, dude, I'll fucking come in, I'll pay my buy-in, I'll bet on myself, and I'm going to take that entire tournament because I know I'm going to win, and that money's mine. And those are the guys we always want to work with. But yeah, it's a hard reset. You talked about martial arts schools. Like, dude, I'm sitting here in my gym. Like, I own a martial arts school too. So like, it helped me hand in hand already having that streaming background from streaming these events. It really made it easier for me to help these guys out and do streaming for my classes. I showed other academies how to do it, because listen, I never want to be the guy that wins because everyone else fails, you know? I want to succeed because my product's better than yours and I believe in myself. I don't want to see you shut down because you were ill prepared. Like, if you won't take the help, that's one thing, but I'm always going to try to help you. And like, that's why I go stream other people's events for them. Like, it's not a competition, man. Rising tides raise all ships.
Oh man.
Yeah, I love that part of it too that you do, because you're helping the community, not just yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something I've always had a big, it's always been big in my mind that that's something I wanted to do, you know? And it was hard in the beginning because, dude, I was a 20-year-old kid. I was a purple belt. Like, yeah, people aren't going to listen to that guy as much as like the guy who's proven himself. So it took me a little while to show that what I'm doing works, you know? And when people started paying attention, then it allowed me to kind of interject a little bit. I've gotten to matchmake for Kasai. I've matchmade for Fight to Win. And whenever like these promotions come to Florida, like they're asking me for help. And I'm more than happy to do it because I got no problem. I don't see it as a competition, you know?
So do you see there being an opportunity for somebody to replicate what you're doing in a different geographical area? And then you guys have a situation where, you know, the winner from all of your brackets end up getting into a tournament?
Yeah.
Has that ever come up?
That's something I've thought about. I've actually had a few people reach out to me about like, not necessarily franchising, but like kind of affiliating Zapatero. So it's a little weird because my affiliation for Jiu-Jitsu is Zapatero Top Team. I got 2 gyms underneath me. So those guys are like paying me and they're directly underneath me as a student base. I would be kind of doing the same thing with the tournament, having like a Northeast qualifier, a West Coast qualifier, maybe a Northwest qualifier. So that way the winner of their brackets would get a spot in my main tournament, you know? So that's something I've thought about. I've had a few people reach out to me. I told them like, give me a little bit of time just because we're coming back after COVID. We just did our 2nd show. I got my 3rd this month. I got a kid coming in December. So I'm doing shows up until November, and then I'm taking like December and January off, and then maybe the end of January, beginning of February, I do another show. But in 2021, I wouldn't be surprised if there's at least 1 or 2 qualifiers where I've licensed the rights to call yourself a Zapatero qualifier, and you win that tournament, and you either get your trip paid or you get a spot in the main tournament.
Bro, this is crazy. I mean, like, you've been 2016 was your first event, right? And now you're thinking about franchising, making regional champions. Like, this is huge. Like, and you're a young dude. I'm a dinosaur in this freaking age. You know what I mean? Like, I'm 44. I already did the kids thing. You're coming in on it. Hey, congratulations to you, by the way. But like, this is. Are you like looking back and looking at its magnitude and be like, okay, I don't want to grow too fast. I don't want to get too big. You know, are you like resetting yourself? This is something that's going to happen for you. For one, just from hearing you and talking, like, you already have the credibility. You already have the people following you, but you have that mindset that's like, look, I'm doing this not for the community. I'm doing this for everybody. And that's where big things are going to come for you, bro. Like, seriously. So,
thanks, man. Hopefully I look like you when I'm fucking 40. Probably not. I'm 26 and I got gray hairs. I drink too much and I drink too much. So like, I'm going to be looking rough when I'm 44. But yeah, it's I think the thing that helped me is I grew too fast already. You know, like my 6th event, we did a $10,000 show, you know, and I was trying to like really make that the number. And Florida's a tough market, man. Like Florida's a really tough market. UFC, like for a while, wouldn't come to Florida. They did 1 show in Miami. It was like UFC 80 something. And then their next show wasn't until like, I want to say 2017. They did a couple shows in Tampa and Orlando. And they just never do well on ticket sales. I don't know what it is, but Florida's always been a tough market for that kind of stuff. So when it comes to like growing too fast, I don't think I'm going to grow too fast just because I already did that. You know, now I realize what we can do. And I'm much more like analytical when it comes to the back end. Like, dude, when I first started the tournament, I'm just like, yeah, let's do this. I didn't track my costs. I didn't track what was really coming in. And then next thing you know, I'm upside down. Now I'm like, I got whiteboards all over my fucking office. I'm like tracking every single expense. I'm actually negotiating with people rather than just being like, yeah, whatever you want. But I think what you're saying is like, I got time on my side. And that's what I've started to realize, you know. And I've also started to realize a lot of promotions come and go because they mismanage their finances. They over promise, under deliver, and they also, man, a lot of them are. It's easy to be good in this industry because a lot of people are pieces of shit, man. Like, Susano is a perfect example. They were in Miami. They were promising like, so I did the pay-per-view for them because one of my buddies and business partners was telling me that they were going to donate the pay-per-view or at least portions of it to the We Defy Foundation. So I'm like, yeah, I'll come do it for you guys for free. They did like $25,000 in pay-per-view. They did like $35,000 at the door, but they promised like $120,000 in prizes and they defaulted on everything. And like, they just fucked everybody. And it's easy to be successful in the industry when you're just not being a piece of shit, you know? So that's like my biggest thing. As long as I'm enjoying it, as long as I'm happy and I'm helping people, as long as I'm not losing money. Like now I'm at the point where I do need to make money on my shows, not because I need the money, but because it's not worth my time with all my other stuff going on to not make a little bit, you know? So as long as that keeps going, we're going to keep growing, and we're going to keep eventually building up to that place. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if in 2021 I'm doing $10,000 shows. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility if COVID allows me to get back into theater venues where I can do 300 seats, because my qualifiers are limited to 60 seats. You know, my event last weekend, I was supposed to be able to do 95. The venue told me it wasn't going to happen, so we did like 75, you know? So we're really limiting our crowd. It's a huge help to have our sponsors coming in, because like they realize it's better to spend their dollars on us because we're on free YouTube and Facebook, and our eyeballs are getting more than Flow Grappling and Fight Pass and all that stuff. But without those guys, we wouldn't be able to do it. So yeah, I think we're going to continue to grow, but it's just growing at a reasonable rate, you know, and it all really depends on the climate of what's happening.
So do you have a plan for growth at this point? Do you want to, I know that COVID is throwing a wrench into it, but before pre-COVID, did you have a future plan of what I want to do in 2021? These are the events that I wanted to do.
Man, I'm trying to fucking remember pre-COVID, because there was so much.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I want to say yeah, but I think most of this stuff really happened during COVID, because he gave you a lot of time to think, you know. And man, honestly, I don't think I was doing as many shows pre-COVID. Because I had taken a little break for a while, because I had opened my gym in February of 2019. So I was really focused on growing the gym, and I was traveling, doing a lot of seminars, because when we open the gym, like obviously you're bleeding money right away. So I'm trying to travel and make up for that money and do all that kind of stuff. So my first show back was like right before COVID hit. We did like a Battle for the Axe in either February or March, and it wasn't a big one. It was like a $500 tournament, and I had some massive names come in just because it was my first show back, and they remembered me from before and what I did. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, I need to get back to this, because like people are asking for me to do this, you know. And when multiple people are asking you to do that, you got to do it again. So I don't.
Yeah, you got to listen to the signs.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to say that I had a plan for it pre-COVID. I think when I was in COVID, that's when I really started like mapping out what I was going to do. And we've done one event a month since. And in 2021, I'm going to do 12 shows. You know, I don't want to do more than that, between 8 and 12 shows. And we're going to keep it at that, just because I really want to make sure they're high quality. The biggest thing we had problems with in the past was the streaming, and we've got that down to a science now. So that's the biggest thing that really helps. You know, we don't have our events drop. We don't have problems. It's all in at least 720p, because the highest you can do on Facebook, on YouTube is 1080. We got a bunch of good people on. Like my biggest problem when I first started is I want to do everything myself, you know. And then when I started bringing people on, they weren't the right fit. Now I got a good team behind me. I got 2 guys that I can trust to actually like run the show, so I can do more big picture things. I can go around, make sure things are running smoothly. I got one guy who's head of the production on like the camera squad. I got one guy that's head of the back end, where he's doing all the switching, making sure the sponsor slides are going through. So it takes a lot off my plate, and it just lets me do the marketing and the matchmaking, and then just kind of enjoy the event as it happens. So I got a good squad around me. 12 shows in 2021 is what we're doing. We've done 3 shows since, actually this month will be our 3rd show since the quarantine. We're going to have 4 in 2020, actually 5, including the one before, which isn't bad, having like, you know, 6 months.
Not at all.
But yeah, we're gonna try to get the prizes up and keep growing, as long as venues allow us to have spectators.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that I'm kind of recognizing, just talking to a lot of different individuals, is if you can stick with something for 5+ years, just stick with it and stay consistent. And like you said, don't be a piece of shit, help everybody out, and brand yourself as that person, you will succeed in whatever venture it is.
Yeah, I think that 5 to 10 year mark is the perfect example. So I've been training jiu-jitsu coming up 10 years now. I've been teaching for about 7, and this is the most successful I've ever been. But I mean, you know, that's what happens when you put consistency in. Right around that 5-year mark, I started being able to teach seminars travel. My tournament started like picking up a little bit. So yeah, I think that there's something about that 5-year mark. But there's a lot of bumps and bruises, man, you got to go through in those first 5 years. You know, I started teaching as a blue belt. I, at 18 years old, moved out of my house, got a condo like 30 minutes up the road with an ex-girlfriend. We signed a lease. They gave us 3 months free rent. I didn't have a job, you know? So I was just like, I'm going to figure this shit out. And I bullshitted my way into a marketing manager position. And then I quit that after 2 months because I got an offer to run be the manager of a martial arts school. It was a little McDojo, but it was like half the pay. And I'm like, this is what I want to do because it gives me time to train. It gives me more of that business end because I knew I always wanted to run a school. You know, I wanted to make this my life. But yeah, like I talk to my students about it all the time because I got guys that are like, I want to make my life and my career jiu-jitsu. I'm like, well, you got to fucking pull the trigger, man. Like if you're 20 some odd years old, like early 20s, and you're like a purple belt and you want to make jiu-jitsu your career, you have to fully invest into it, you know? And that's the same for anything else. Like, it's scary. You got to take that leap eventually, and you're going to take a pay cut. You're going to go into debt. Like, it's not going to be easy. But if you can grind for that 5-year mark, after that, it's pretty fucking easy. And, yeah, as long as you just stay consistent with it. And you're right, that 5-year mark's really big.
Hey, you know what's funny? Like Gary Vee is always talking about, hey, you want to learn how to do something? Go do it with this guy for free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he just go in there, be around you, be around like, and just soak in stuff. Just sit there and do it. But like, hey, look, I'll clean the mats for you if you show me this. You know, I'll be that grinding guy. Nobody really wants to be that grind anymore. But I want to go back to what you were saying about having some good people around you, because what happens when you start to get into business, everybody, all your friends, which are pieces of shit, you start to find out, it's like, oh, they want something for nothing. But like, bro, you know, I'm trying to make a business here. I'm trying to continue. And you much rather spend $100 on somebody else's than spend $50 with me. You know, like, why? Like, I got people in my family that know I have a self-defense company, but nobody's calling me up and say, hey, could I take a class? You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. So having that good nucleus around you, like you were saying, you have some great people around you, is helping you grow and do things that are making a big macro decisions for you. Like I want to look at the crowd. I want to look at everything else. I need to be the matchmaker. I need to take back time. Like be humble enough to give it to those people that you trust, you know, and then so you can continue to grow as a team. So
Yeah,
it sounds like you're doing it.
Yeah, and going back to like what you said about that, like being that apprentice, like I can give some props to this girl dating Harris. She runs Artemis up in Knoxville. I went up and streamed their event, but she been coming down to my last 2 events and doing exactly that, just shadowing me. You know, like she paid her way down here. She just tried to help out where she could. Like dude, I give shit to everybody. Like that's my thing is like, if I like you, I'm fucking with you the whole time. And she took a fucking beating this last time. Like we were just piling on her the whole time. But like she's doing exactly what you're saying, man. She's putting that time in. She's going to learn from these people, and it's paying off for her. Her event's doing well. I brought her on as a sponsorship coordinator, and it works for her because it works for both of us. She gets more sponsorship dollars from me, and it gives her the connections for her company. So it's like hand in hand. But yeah, dude, it's hard. Like you said, you realize there's a lot of pieces of shit around you that want something for free. And I got a lot of friends that are entrepreneurs, and we always have this little conversation. It's like, if they're really your friend, they want to pay full price. You know, they don't ask for that homie discount. They don't try to get it for free. Like, I see it a lot in my industry with other coaches. Like, they don't want to pay their entry fee. They don't want to, like, they want to come in and get it for free because they brought a student to coach. It's like, no, dude, when I go places, I'm happy to pay. You know, I know the biggest names in the sport, like fucking Ricardo Laborio. He's an ADCC champion, like one of the best of all time. He's in Orlando. When he shows up to events, he walks up, he pays right at the door. If they don't know who he is, they take his money. If they know who he is, they're just like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Like, get in there. And then they force people to take money. Same thing with Eddie Bravo. Like, Eddie Bravo sneaks the promoter's fucking money to pay for his ticket because nobody will take it from him, you know? Like, that's what you got to be. Like, if you're not doing that and you're wanting something for free, you're never going to be that fucking great badass, you know? Like, right. That's not how you get respect. That's not how you build yourself up. Like, I'm happy to pay, you know? Anywhere I go, I got no problem paying whatever the admission fee is, because I want to support, and I know what it is, what it's like. I know you guys are running on tight margins. I know you got to fucking make money where you can. Like, it's tough, man. But yeah, it's hard to really hand off the reins on something that has been your baby for so long, you know? Yeah, we're 5 years in now, and especially when you've been burnt before. I think every entrepreneur has had that experience. You know, they get burnt because we all, like, I have a great mentor. You know, like my jiu-jitsu coach is also my business mentor. He's like one of the smartest guys I know. He's like a dad to me. He's got a couple PhDs, a couple master's degrees. He's a consultant for the government, owns his own companies, and he's a college professor. Like, you think I got my plate full? This guy's fucking insane. But it's hard for any of us to take those lessons. And now when I'm coaching people, when I'm helping people, like, it's the same thing. They don't take your lessons to heart because you got to learn it the hard way, you know? And learning it the hard way, handing off the reins to people who shouldn't have had it, allowed me to really keep that good nucleus around me. And even though it's harder for me to hand things off to them now, I know since they've done it a couple times now that I have the right people around me, and it's allowed me to be a little bit more adept and aware to who I should bring in and all that good stuff.
Yeah, don't forget to show appreciation to those people too, man. That's one thing that I found out, man. Like, hey, thanks. I couldn't have done it without you. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing a great job. Go buy them dinner. Do something real, like, off the wall for them. Like, just say, hey, thank you. You know? Yeah,
dude. And like I said, I'm the guy that gives everybody shit. And like after that last show, I sat him down. I'm like, man, you guys did fucking awesome. And, like, I don't give compliments. You know, like it's one of those things. It's like my coach was always like, you don't do this for the compliments, you know. And we were very like coming up. We were like very anti like, hey, good job, that looked great, because you don't want to be seeking that approval, especially in combat sports, because eventually you're going to have someone cornering your opponent that you looked up to forever. And you don't want to be sitting there looking for their approval, you know? So you got to be like, fuck that guy. I'm going to go beat the shit out of this guy. So we were very anti, like, building each other up. Like, now that we're like, now that I'm a black belt and running my own school, like, it's a different dynamic. But when you're coming from that competitor mindset, that really stuck with me. And it's hard for me to, like, take a compliment. And it's hard for me it's easier for me to give a compliment, but I don't take compliments well. But when I sit down with my guys and I'm like, hey, dude, that was fucking awesome. You did a really good job. Like, you know that they know that you mean that, you know, and it's a bigger deal for them because it's not given as easily.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing that we started to learn. And you talk about burning, getting burnt early. I mean, we've gone through it too. We had groups, we had people that we thought were thorough guys, and like, hey, come on in, let's do this together, let's build as a team. And then we wake up one morning and half our money's gone out of our account, bro. It's like, what the hell is that, man? Like, we have the heart, you know, to sit there and say, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I want to bring you in because we need to come up together. Like, everybody's out there. We can make money, bro. You know what I mean? Like, there's ways to do it. Let's do it together. But when you just say, you know what? No, I'm better than you. I'm taking half your money. That's just not how it works, man. So
yeah, dude.
Yeah, at least if you want to have any longevity and stuff, that's not how it works.
Yeah,
exactly. It's tough because you don't want to be so stuck in, like, you don't want to be so hardened that you're not open to bringing new people on. But it's tough, man, because I'm someone who gives very freely, and like everyone's like, oh, respect is earned. It's like, no, I'll give you respect off the bat. But if you make me lose that respect for you, then it's gonna be hard to earn back, you know. So it's tough balancing between giving too much and like having your defenses down and being like a fucking stone wall and nobody can get through. You got to be able to be a little bit of both.
Yeah, you definitely have to have a mixture of both if you're going to be personable to that respect. But something to go back to is whenever you are giving up the reins to a lot of different avenues of your show, that allows you to become more strategic. And I feel like you'll be able to grow. I don't know if you're into books at all, like leadership books or anything like that. Do you read?
A little bit. So, I mean, more audiobooks because I'm driving all the time and stuff like that. Normally I get most of my info from podcasts, but I had Audible for a while and I was listening to some of the audiobooks. And actually I'm a big Tim Ferriss fan on the podcast side and a lot of those guys.
Yeah, that's my jam. Did you listen to him and Chuck Palahniuk?
Nah, I haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah, it's good. Chuck is a wild guy. I read his book Choke. It's insane. But anyhow, what I was getting at is through the books, something that Jocko Willing talks about is being able to look at things from a macro perspective. And if you're in the weeds all the time, you know, dealing with, like you were saying, sponsorship banners in the background and things like that, like you can't look at your show from, I want to have regional qualifiers and being able to make those contacts because you're occupied with all the minutia. I mean, when did that transition really happen? And did you find yourself growing bigger and better after that?
I think it started in 2018. You know, the gym I was teaching at the time kind of partnered up with another local gym, and it brought in some new blood and stuff like that. And it allowed me access to one of my buddies, Sonny, who's a tech guy. And I kind of let him take over the reins of the streaming at the time. It didn't work out long term, not through any fault of either of us, just because his gym got real busy, had to focus on that. We ended up traveling more. We started doing shows in like Tennessee, Connecticut. I've actually done a show in Amsterdam. Like, we've been all over the place. But that's when it started, you know. And it was on track to really blow things up because our shows out of state were doing awesome. Those were our most profitable shows. The Florida ones were always tough because, like I said in the beginning, the Florida market's tough. But what happened was I got more burnt out because I did so many shows in such a short period of time that I didn't have the capacity at the time to really start growing. And this was before I met my wife, before I kind of got the support system around me that has allowed me to kind of take some downtime and then reinvigorate myself to go back to it. So yeah, that's when it kind of started. And had I personally been in a better place, I would have been able to really grow it a lot faster. So I ended up taking like a year off to just kind of like decompress, focus on building the gym and stuff like that. But that's where the beginning of like the crew that I have now started coming around, you know, like my core group of guys all came from that time period and stuck with me to where we are now and allowed us to grow to the point we are now.
It's incredible too. Once you start down that path, how you start attracting those types of people towards you.
Yeah. And I'm not one of those like the gift fans and stuff like that, or like whatever the hell it is, but I do believe in mentalities. You know, if you have that feast rather than famine mentality, it attracts success and wealth, you know? And if you're giving off that vibe, it brings those good people around you. I mean, I'm not saying that there won't be wolves that come from it too, because, you know, they want to eat too, but it's going to bring more good people than bad. I really believe it.
So I think that's a good segue into another avenue I wanted to go down with you. You're going after flow grappling a little bit. And I kind of want to hear the story from your end, and also to wrap in the Red Belt documentary as well. If you could entertain us with that. Yeah,
I mean, it really just started back when, so Flow Grappling wanted to put my show on their event, the 10-man or the $10,000 60-man tournament I did, my 6th event. They wanted to partner up and started doing my show long term on their platform. Back then, my biggest gripe with them was they were new. They had horrible streaming quality. They were charging so much money, and there was like constantly ads behind the paywall and stuff like that. So that was like the beginning of it, and that wasn't like a huge thing. But when they started negotiating with me to take over my event, they offered me $1,000 for the streaming rights. And then they were like, oh, but we'll give you $10,000 in advertising dollars. I'm like, okay, can I get like a receipt or a breakdown for what that'll be? And they're like, no, like we're gonna spend that much. Trust me. I'm like, this is kind of weird. Like, I want to get more. Started negotiating, and they're like, listen, if you don't go with us, there's a lot of sponsors that won't fund your show because you're not on Flow Grappling. And I'm like, okay, are you fucking trying to strong arm me right now? Don't fucking play those games with me, because I'm one of those guys that's gonna shoot myself in the foot just to fucking like spite you. You know, like I'll take a pay cut just so you guys fucking feel it. And I ended up telling them to go fuck themselves. I posted the contract they sent me, because the big thing is when you sell your streaming rights to them, you give up all rights to that content in perpetuity, you know? And at the time, they were actually going to come down and stream it for you and stuff like that. That's changed now. We'll get into that in a second. But like since then, it's been a tumultuous path, you know, and we've had a hard relationship. And there was a time, like really recently too, where I was very complimentary because they did a lot of good things. Like their product's not bad, okay? And I don't think charging $30 a month for access to their content because they give you flow grappling, flow combat, and flow wrestling, that's not a bad deal, okay? I got no problem with that. Now it's more the behind the scenes, the pieces of shit that run it, you know? And it's also the fact now they started pulling away. So now they still have those crazy contracts where you sell your rights and you get no access to them forever. And we'll just keep it on the business side for now. We'll talk about the athletes after. So you sell your streaming rights and you get no access to it. Now they're not even coming in and streaming your event unless you're like a giant promotion. Like Kasai was the only one that I know of that they did it for you. Like ADCC's another. Now it's like you have to have your own stream team. They're just paying you money to have you stream to their platform. So they're no longer doing it for you. It's done by you, and they're just paying an absorbently low amount of money for the rights to it. The next step, they own their own ranking system, okay? And a lot of their contracts are based off of their ranking system. So you need to have X amount of athletes ranked in the top 10 to get a higher payout. You need to have X amount of athletes who are being pushed by flow grappling to have a higher payout, okay? And I know a lot of promoters in the game. I'm friends with them, and they're constantly battling to get that, and they're constantly changing the rankings so they don't have to pay out as much. They're constantly like going to court and like suing people because of putting like Emil who put something on YouTube and it was totally fair use. My buddy Mike Cipriani went to court with them because they tried to get out of paying him the full amount, saying there wasn't enough well-known competitors. Meanwhile, next month they start pushing the guys that were on there. So like it's very they're a monopoly, you know. And fuck flow is like it's just a nice catchy way of getting people to open up and realize what the hell's going on. You know, like their average payout for an event for the streaming rights is $2 to $3 grand. You know, if you put your show on Facebook and YouTube and you hustle a little bit on the sponsor end, you're going to make more than that. You know, when I did my $10,000 tournament, one of them,
I lost your audio.
business.
There, it's back.
Good.
We lost you for like 10 seconds.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah, you're good to go now.
All right, cool. Yeah. So if you have the balls to stand up to them and like kind of put a little hustle in, then you're going to make more than you make with them. The problem is there's such a monopoly now that they're going to constantly start shitting on you. And that's the problem from the athlete perspective now is Emil got kind of shit on by them because he like threatened to go to court with them. You know, like he has a lawyer friends. His wife is a lawyer. So he could go to court all day with them and fight it out in court. And they just, the minute he lost a match, they made a huge Instagram post telling him to basically go fuck himself. And from the athlete perspective, it sucks because you can't make highlights of your matches, you know? Like, they will sue you instead of letting you broadcast and market yourself. From another perspective from the athletes, like, if you're someone that Flow likes, it's real good. You know, like, you're making money, you're getting pushed, you're growing your social media so you can leverage it on other promotions. But if you're not someone that Flow likes, your accomplishments just kind of get wiped away, you know? Like my buddy, one of our champions, Quentin Rose this week, he's the catch wrestling champion now. He had a match with Roberto Jimenez, which is one of their golden boys, back in, I want to say 2019. It was the Honored Invitational. And Roberto was getting pushed big time by them, and Quentin subbed them in under 60 seconds. And crickets, you know, nothing. They just ignored it. They acted like it didn't happen. And, like, that's what happens, man. If you don't play ball with Flow, they just kind of, like, ignore you, and they might threaten you with a lawsuit. They might, if you start, like, I'm really surprised they haven't threatened me with a lawsuit yet, just because
You know, like I'm super vocal and I have been for a while, but I think they realize that like I got enough friends in high places where you sue me, like I'm gonna fucking come after you hard, you know, and it's gonna get worse. But yeah, they just got some shady people behind them, you know, and it shows in their business practices.
Yeah, and you're like the total opposite. You're allowing all of your athletes to use your event to promote themselves.
Yeah, 100%. Like I had somebody do a breakdown of the main event of my last event on YouTube, and they were like, "Please don't sue me, Zapatero." And I went in there and I commented, "I'm like, dude, I'm not fucking float grappling. Like, thank you for, thank you for giving us some hype. You know, thank you for sharing it." And I commented on there, and like 100 people started following me just off of that one video. You know, so like if you have that mindset, you know, like we're talking about that feast versus famine mindset. If you got that feast mindset, there's room for everyone. You know, I want everyone to grow. Use my content, you know, use it because it gives more eyeballs to me. It gives more eyeballs to you and it gets people talking. And
Absolutely.
I think this is what you saw with this last event. And it's been our most talked about event. It wasn't my most expensive event. It didn't cost me the most, but it was the most talked about because we did it all out for free. I had big old fuck flow right in the middle of the mat. The main event was awesome. There was a little bit of controversy. I mean, not even controversy, but like one guy got smoked real fast. Quentin went out there and just murdered the other guy. But it's been talked about throughout the news site. Everybody's been getting more shine. They've been getting more followers. And we've all been growing together. And I think that's going to be a pattern you see because people are really getting tired of this like monopoly.
Yeah, I think you're seeing it in the general world right now. They're tired, and the world is tired of individualistic mindsets. We need to have more community mindsets, and that's really what drew me to you, because you are constantly pushing out content for your event that is promoting the fighters and just the jiu-jitsu community in general. And like you said, a feast mentality. If I'm helping somebody make money, grow their community, grow their following, and helping them live their dreams, I never have to worry about mine. Ever.
Yeah. Yeah. And dude, I'm not one to like kind of sit back and think about the things I've accomplished because like it's probably not healthy, but I have a very like tough inner monologue with myself. I don't sit there and look at my accomplishments much. But the other day, I was thinking about, I mean, having a kid will kind of do that to you. But, like, I was kind of thinking about it. I'm like, man, what if something happened tomorrow and, like, I fucking died, you know? And I'm like, you know what? Like, my kid would be okay because there's enough people that I helped in this community that would come together and, like, rally around my family and stuff like that. And they probably wouldn't need to worry about anything, you know? Like, obviously, I'd be gone. But, like, money-wise and stuff like that, they wouldn't have to worry about any of that just because – I really believe I've helped enough people in this community at this point, and I'm just getting started, that we're never going to have to worry about that. But yeah, dude, I always, Gary Vee talks about it a lot, about how he wants to be historically correct, you know, and he worries about his legacy. I'm not too worried about my legacy, but I want to historically be on the right side of like, you know, this is the way things are changing, and I want to be ahead of that. You know, I don't want to be that guy that's stuck in the dark ages trying to siphon off the last little bit of money from the community. And if you're trying to grow the sport, this is what it really comes down to. Jiu-jitsu is a niche sport. You know, if we're trying to get it out there to multiple thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, we're trying to grow it in the right direction where maybe one day it's in the Olympics or maybe one day it's on ESPN or something like that. You can't do that behind a paywall. You know, you have to put it out there for free. You have to put some money behind it. You have to do some advertising, and you have to let people come to it. If we go back to the UFC, you know, the Stephen Bonner Forrest Griffin fight, before social media, people calling each other up on the phone like, hey, these guys are beating the fuck out of each other. Go watch it right now. You see the numbers rise throughout the fight. Eventually, we're going to have a jiu-jitsu event that's like that. If it's on social media and these guys are going after each other and it's nonstop action and people start sharing and sharing and sharing and sharing, that's going to be the guy that wins. You know, that's going to be the next star.
Well, going viral is real. You know what I mean? If you sit there and put your stuff out there, I mean, we have a very small budget in the Stars podcast, right? So like we don't have any, and we rely on other people to say, hey, I like this, or hey, comment on here, or hey, like, subscribe, share. It's the same thing with you, you know. And it's kind of funny how I know we unfortunately we're bringing up Gary Vee a lot. He is on the right side of history, you know, like, but he's like Facebook is really undervalued, bro. Like, you're putting your stuff out there and the masses are seeing this like right now.
Yep.
You know, so and for those guys to be like, no, I want 100% of the content, and you can't make highlights off of me. Like, yeah, I'm with you. Fuck Flow. Let's make shirts.
Well, I think another thing too.
We'll get them out to you guys.
He does have shirts. I saw them. Yeah, we'll put the order in. We put the money where it goes. But shit, I can't remember what I was just gonna say about the streaming on Facebook.
Well, I mean, dude, Facebook is super undervalued. You know, like the ability to, and honestly, I think Twitch is too. I think Twitch is going to be the next thing that really blows up. And it's really big for gamers right now. But we have, I mean, it's, dude, every podcast I go on, I try to give people the recipe. Like, if you want to stream your event, this is the way to do it. You can bring me in and I'll charge you like next to nothing. Like, give me a seminar and make sure I'm not losing money. And when the kid comes, well, like, I'll bring someone else out there, so I'm not doing it myself. But if you want to do it yourself, rent yourself a fucking Sling Studio from Lens Rental, okay? It's going to cost you $150 for like 4 days, okay? That comes with everything you need on the back end to make it work. Smartphones, we all have them, all right? iPhones, Androids, anything new has a great camera. Like, one of my camera angles this event, I had 4 camera angles. 3 of them were like super expensive cameras, and one of them was a smartphone. You could not tell the difference. Like, I can spend $5,000 on a nice camera, like video studio quality camera, and my Note 9. You know, you can't tell the difference. So get your buddies together, get your smartphones, get 3 smartphones, hook them up to the Sling Studio, stream it out there to Facebook. If you want to multi-stream it, get Restream.io. It's $20 a month. Okay, you can live stream to YouTube, Facebook. Twitch, you can restream up to 20 different platforms, okay? If you want to do this yourself and you just want to rent that shit, it's going to cost you less than $300, and you can do a great show on a budget and put it out there for everybody to see. Do it, all right? Don't fucking take that $1,000 offer for Flow Grappling, because you're going to have to get that shit anyways and pay for it to put it out to them. Because if you're a new show coming up, they're not going to go out there and do it for you. You're going to have to do it yourself. And then if it goes wrong, they're going to bitch at you. Listen, put it out there for free. Put a little tip jar on there. You'll probably make your money back, and then you're growing your audience.
Bro, taking notes.
Yeah, I'm going to clip that out for sure for everybody. We'll go through the list of items again. You said Sling Studio.
Yeah, so Sling Studio. So we bought our stuff. So we're probably like 20 grand in on our streaming equipment. Not everybody needs to start there, okay? Get yourself a Sling Studio. You can get it from lensrental.com. I'm pretty sure it's like $125 to $150 for the weekend. And they ship it out to you with a return address, overnight shipping, all right? You use the stuff. Monday morning, you put it all back in the box and you ship it back to them, all right? It'll come with a Sling Studio hub. It's a big white thing. That's what you run everything through, and an iPad, okay? iPad you use for switching cameras and all that shit. I think it comes with the Studio Link too, which is a little box that you can connect to one of your cameras through an HDMI adapter. So if you want to, like, if you have a video camera already, you throw that thing on there and you connect it, and it all connects over Wi-Fi. It comes with the port, so that way you can have a direct connect to the internet. And then everything else is through the Sling capture app on your phone. And they use your phone as a camera. And you're sitting on your iPad and you're just switching, you know? You're switching. And you can do commentary too. It works perfect, man. If you have like a podcast setup, you just go through the audio link or the audio line in, and you talk and it goes up. If not, just use a fucking phone, put it next to the commentators and talk into the fucking phone. Like, I've done super budget events like for an entire 5 years, you know. For the past like year, we started to actually put some money into things and take it to another level. But you don't need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on streaming equipment. Dude, we've probably spent $40,000 over the last 5 years on streaming equipment, and half the shit we don't use because the Sling Studio is the best thing I can do. Like, the only problem I've ever had with that is I can't put a match timer on there. And that's the only problem. And it's not the end of the world, you know, like we fucking talk about it on the commentary. But yeah, do that shit. And that works for any event. You don't have to be doing jiu-jitsu. Like, I've used my Sling setup to go do podcasts, to go do like interviews. Like, we were down on Miami Beach one time and we had a hotspot connected to it, and we're going live with multiple cameras following people around. Like, it's great. If you want to like start a news site, like you're going to events and you want to do some live coverage of it, you want to set up like a news program on Facebook, use this. It's perfect.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. It's not only great for jiu-jitsu competitions and shows, it's good for any show. I'm thinking about this and my mind is spinning right now.
Yeah, dude, it's perfect, man. Like, I've used it for podcasts before. I don't know how you use it. I've seen people use it for like across, like if you're not in the same room. I don't know how they do it yet, but I haven't really focused in on that because my podcast has kind of taken a backseat since I've been doing everything else. But there's ways to make it work, man. And it's a great product. Like, if you got a couple grand laying around that you want to invest into something, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to look into that. Because this setup is always evolving,
Right.
Just trying to get better. Like you said, you do something on a budget. If you look at some of our very first videos and audio, you'd be like, oh my God, I'm never going on that show. But now it's getting a little bit better. We're fine tuning things, and I'm always looking for different ways to make it better.
Bro, first show, our mics were backwards.
I bet, dude, listen. My first event, it was when YouTube Live on the phone just started. I tried doing it on YouTube Live. It didn't work. So I ended up just taking a laptop, and I turned the webcam around, and I just streamed it like that. Like, I've done pay-per-view events on a laptop like the one I'm using right now, and I just faced it at the mats, and I made $500 on that. Like,
Hey, grind where you can. That's like the true entrepreneurial spirit, though. You figure it out on the fly, usually, until you can get a product that's you've settled into a little bit. But you figure it out. You just continuously problem solve.
100%, man. Look at Joe Rogan's podcast. Like, his first few events or first few podcasts, he's sitting there on a laptop with a fucking webcam, and it's a couple guys on their couch smoking weed and talking shit. And now I just saw the setup of his new studio over in Texas, and Jesus fucking Christ, man. And he sold this thing for $100 million to Spotify. Like, you start on a laptop just talking shit, next thing you know, 10 years go by, and like we talked about before, that magic number, like 5 to 10 years, and you keep being consistent at it, you putting content out. If you do something for 10 years, you do a podcast for 10 years, and you just keep doing it, like, he hasn't spent any money on advertising. All this stuff, granted, he was a little famous when he started, but I mean, like, all of it came from word of mouth and just social media.
And he helps people out.
Yeah. If you do something for 10 years, you will be successful. It's just that consistency, and that's something we see lacking a lot. And like, I'm not going on that fucking millennial track because I think I'm technically one too, but like, I fucking hate everybody my age because they can't stick to anything, you know? If you just put in a little fucking work, the time's going to pass one way or another. Like, I see it all the time in jiu-jitsu. A guy starts, perfect example. I was a white belt. This guy started, or he was a purple belt when I started. I'm a black belt. Dude quit, came back. He's still a purple belt, you know? Like, time's going to pass one way or another. I'm going to be here one way or another. I'll help you no matter what, but it's easier to just start and keep going than start and stop and start and stop.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely. I tell you one thing. I know that time passes because, bro, like I said, I'm 44 years old, and I restarted my life in martial arts when I was 38. You know what I mean? Yep. It's just like, who does that? Plus, I also got a 3 and a 4-year-old, so I really started life over again. But it's really funny, like what you were saying about doing the grind and just like going stuff on the fly. I mean, we've done seminars for, like, we show up and says, hey, because we do like active shooter seminars and like self-defense seminars. So we show up to an event and they're like, oh, we got 20 people. We show up, there's 110 people. It's like, bro, what do we do now? The same thing we were going to do for the 10 people, you know, like we just go at it and see what happens. Like we have really I'm surprised we're doing as well as we did, because we really have no game plan. Me and my partner, Chris, we just walk into the thing and be like, all right, so what we going to do? We'll figure it out. Let's go. Right. You just do it.
Yeah. And dude, that's what happens to everybody, man. Like everyone thinks that, oh, you need a plan. Like I hear, oh, you need to get in shape before you start training. It's like, no, you just fucking show up, you know, like you need to have a business plan before you start a business. Dude, I've never made a business plan in my fucking life, you know, and I have like 4 successful businesses. Like, yeah, maybe it'd be a little bit more successful if I like took some time and actually put pen to paper, but like, that's not what the spirit is about. It's about just fucking hustling. And if you can do that, you'll be fine.
Bro, that's organic. So like matter of fact, we had a guy on here. He's like, man, I've been trying to work on a podcast. I was gonna do a podcast. He's been gonna do a podcast for 3 years. Bro,
Yeah.
we just sat there, just plugged it up and said, let's go, let's see what happens. Because like we had no problem putting out a shit product. We'll just see what happens. Like it's gonna organically morph, you know, like Ron, he never picked up a firearm before. He never went on jujitsu mat. He never did any of that stuff. Then all of a sudden he was like, hey, Aaron, what's up? I want you guys to get into jujitsu. So it was 6 months later, he says, hey, you know, we found a guy that's going to bring jujitsu to the school. And then look at the dude. Like he's like our own freaking poster board. I'm good with it.
Yeah, man. It's crazy because like, everybody's afraid of putting out a shit product because they're afraid of the hate that's going to come from it, you know? And I fucking love when people talk trash. Like, I don't know what it is. I think it's probably just from my fighting background because, like, I used to sit there and study, like, Chael Sonnen's trash talk, you know? I would sit there for hours watching it. And, like,
He's a master.
I love it when people, yeah, he is. And I love it when people fucking talk shit to me. And I love it when there's hate in the comment sections because I'm like, just fucking wait. Just wait. And I'll go in there, I'll fucking roast people. Like during my show, talk about like big picture stuff. This is me getting all fucking stupid, but like they're running the show. I'm checking on Facebook to make sure things are going smoothly and shit like that. And I see a couple people shitting on me. I'm like, all right, motherfucker. Like, I know where you are. I'll show up at your fucking gym tomorrow. And like, that's half the enjoyment of the event is like, people are like, oh, goddamn, the promoter's talking shit. And like, everyone's fucking loving it and shit like that. But it needs to, if you're afraid of people hating, like you're not meant to do anything, you know? Like even if you're doing amazing work, dude, if Mother Teresa was alive right now, she'd have some fucking haters, you know?
Yeah.
Like it is what it is.
It's always the people who aren't in the arena that are hating too. You know, it's always the people looking from the sidelines. They feel bad about themselves, and you almost feel bad for them because of just, you know, where that's coming from. You know the source of their anger and their bullshit that they're saying. But I love that you go after them.
Yeah, dude. And there's this meme that goes around like saying there's never someone doing more than you that's going to talk shit, you know? It's always someone doing less. And it's like, yeah, to a certain point, unless there's someone that's seriously just like, they have their own demons, you know? Like I know a couple guys that run really successful grappling promotions. They just fucking talk shit to each other all the time. And they're like 2 of the biggest ones in the sport. Like some people are just like different, you know? And if you can't, that's the real test, you know? If you can have someone who's massively successful, huge following, talk shit to you, and you're still cool, and you still deal with their fucking legion of haters, and you're fine with it, that's when you know you're fucking untouchable, you know?
Because you
like,
got confidence.
Yeah, I give 0 fucks. Like, if Gordon Ryan tomorrow starts talking shit to me, like, is what it is. I don't give a fuck. Thank you for the attention. Thanks for the followers, man.
Dude, he screenshot your event. Did you see that?
Yeah, and I mean, dude, I like Gordon. I've had Gordon on like 4 or 5 times. Like, he was the winner of my first event before he blew up, you know? He came back for my second event right before he blew up, or maybe it was right after. But I've paid Gordon probably like $30,000 over the course of his career just from our events. And he's a good guy, man. And I appreciate him screenshotting it. And even though he was talking shit to Quentin about it and Curran, yeah, like, dude, I'll fucking take it. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, that's the goal, man. Like, everybody, I've said it a couple times. Everybody wants to be the UFC. Like, I'm over here just trying to be like Pride, you know? I'm trying to bring back the fucking craziness. I'm trying to bring back the freak show, trying to bring a little bit of the pro wrestling aspect into it, because where there's controversy, where there's wild, crazy things happening, there's fucking people paying attention. And attention is worth more than money.
100%. 100%. So what is the freak show?
Okay, so I got a fucking freak show coming on this month. I got Emil Fisher. He's my 205 champ. He's been on your show before, taking on Keith Krikorian. He just won the 155-pound division last weekend. Keith is giving up probably 60, 70 pounds against Emil, and it's for the 205 title, and I made a fucking freak show belt, and we're going to have that thing defended. So if Keith wins, I'm going to keep throwing giant monsters at him. If Emil wins, I'm going to find something even fucking crazier than Emil to throw at him. But, like, talk about freak shows. I was trying to make – I don't know if you guys know who Bob Sapp is, but fucking former pro football player. He was 350 pounds of steroids, and he used to fight MMA. He was a beast for a while, but he's known for slamming people on their head. And Craig Jones is, like, 200 pounds, one of the best in the world. I wanted to make fucking Bob Sapp and Craig Jones happen because Bob Sapp's either going to get tapped real quick or Craig's going to get slammed multiple times, like, on his fucking head. So that's the kind of shit I want to do, Like, there's tag team jiu-jitsu. Like, that's cool. I'll do some of that shit, too. But
Tag team jiu-jitsu?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, people are doing tag team jiu-jitsu, and I'll do some tag team events, too. But I just want to make some fucking freak show matches happen, I want –
Let me ask you this, then. What is the match that you want to make other than the Bob Sapp, Craig Jones?
I do fucking Bob Sapp, Keith Krikorian, or I'm trying to think of some really big guys. Dude, anytime there's like a tiny guy and a huge guy, people are going to fucking tune in, Maybe I'll bring Gordon back in for like some cross promotion match. Like, he's already done that shit with the wrestlers and stuff like that. Honestly, I haven't thought that far ahead. When I get that answer, I'll fucking let you guys know. But right now we got Krikorian and Emil Fisher, and that's going to be a freak show in itself because Emil does weird shit where he'll just lay flat on his back, and he's in fucking unicorn rash guards and onesies and shit like that. And Keith is a savage, man. He's an ADCC vet. He's won my tournament multiple times. And, yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it for sure. I'll have the watch party going.
Sweet.
Bro, I just remembered who Bob Sapp was. I was like, oh, my gosh. He was on that the movie with Happy Gilmore. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great. He had like that really squeaky voice, and he got mad when he broke his nose.
You broke it in my nose.
That dude's a monster.
Oh, yeah, he's giant. Like, I would love to do him against a 155-pound guy. Like, I've reached out to him. Like, I've priced him out. Like, it's not impossible,
Bro, I mean, boxing was doing that with Butterbean.
Yeah, exactly. And, dude, Butterbean actually had skill. That's the other thing. It's
no, he was. Yeah.
I don't know what Bob Sapp's grappling abilities like. I know he was a decent striker, but if he's not getting hit and he can just like scream tap and tap out real quick, like, yeah, he'll fucking come out, Another one is fucking Rumble Johnson's doing jiu-jitsu events again. When what was their name? Substars, when they fucked everybody, they did a charity match between Rumble Johnson and this giant fucking sumo wrestler, and they did a sumo wrestling event, and he fucking did it. So, like, that's some of the crazy shit. I don't want to do sumo stuff because that's just a little weird. But
I like the outfit, though.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, they had him in the fucking outfit. They had Curtis Blades and Rumble Johnson in these fucking outfits. And they had this guy. They flew him over from Japan. He must have needed a full, like, row of seats to fucking fit. I don't know how he fits on a goddamn plane. Like, he was over 400 pounds.
Bro, imagine your dinner bill.
Yeah. I don't fucking know how these guys, like, sumo's just so foreign to me. Like, I don't understand it at all.
Yeah, them dudes are crazy.
So you're all about the freak show events, and you bring up the wrestling. What did you grow up watching that kind of shaped that for you?
Honestly, it was just that pride stuff, man. I was never a giant pro wrestling fan. Like, I got into pro wrestling, like, later in life. Like, I don't watch a shit ton of it. I'm more of the, like, old school stuff. I'll go back and watch, like, Macho Man Randy Savage, like, wrestle and shit like that. But it was pride, man. Like, going back and watching those events and thinking about that kind of stuff, and, like, that Brock Lesnar era of the UFC where it was like, oh, man, yeah, this guy's a pro wrestler, but he was a fucking legit, like, national champion level collegiate wrestler as well. what the fuck's gonna happen? And that question, like when you're at an event and you get that buzz in the air, you're like, what the fuck is gonna happen? That's what I want to replicate, you know. And if I can do that, I'm gonna do that. So yeah, it was the UFC and Pride and that kind of stuff. I remember watching like the soccer stomps and Pride, just the foreign rule set. Like they were all roided to the gills and they're just beating the shit out of each other. And it was a spectacle. They knew how to put on a show and make even the loser feel like a fucking champion, you know. So much we see in like the UFC and Western sports, it's all about the winner. You know, when it comes to like Japan, ONE FC and stuff like that, it's about that fighting spirit, you know? And that's something I kind of want to bring back a little bit too. Like, yeah, we want the freak show aspect of it too, but we want to see a good match. You know, I don't want to see you just win because you're boring, you know? Like, I don't want you to be afraid to lose. And yes, there's money on the line and you want to make money. You're going to make more if you win than if you lose. But going out there and putting on a hell of a match and getting that kind of respect, that needs to kind of be brought back, you know? So that's
I agree with you.
Yeah, that's kind of
and that's something that we're missing.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully we can bring back, but I mean, who knows?
Everybody's afraid to lose because of the sponsor dollars or their record or their legacy. And it's like, if you want respect, you got to go out there and put on a good show.
Yeah, I think Gary Tone is the perfect example of that. He's one of the greatest of all time, man. Like I legit think, he's not the greatest grappler of all time because obviously he's lost, but I think he's the most entertaining and he's got the most name value of any grappler, even more than Gordon at this point. And he's gone out there. He's never won ADCC. The best he's done was bronze, but he's a fan favorite. He makes more than these guys and won ADCC multiple times. So that's a perfect example showing that even though you lose, doesn't mean you're not going to make money. You know, this guy's gone out and made more money than so many world champions, and he's never won a black belt world title. He's never won ADCC. He's won EBI a few times. He's done great in MMA, but he's almost like always the bridesmaid, never the bride. But he's making more than the fucking bride, so who cares?
Yeah. I'm trying to go over this. Let me ask you this. Whenever you are putting on these shows, what gets you away from being sanctioned and needing that type of regulation?
You don't need sanctioning in Florida for grappling. We could even do combat jiu-jitsu events down here without regulation. When you start adding a closed fist or a kick or slams, and even then slams might be legal now just because you can do open hand strikes. But that's when you need like the commission and stuff like that. In different areas, I don't know. I know New York just passed like this weird law where everybody needs to be blood tested for like even amateur grappling events. So like if you go to like a Naga in New York, you all have to be blood tested. You all have to have your paperwork on you. But dude, that's why I stay out of the Northeast. Like the most we did was Connecticut, and they're super lax on their laws up there when it comes to that kind of stuff. We stayed at the Southeast, man, because down here it's Florida, man. Like the fucking Florida man shit's real. Like we don't give a fuck down here. Tennessee is even crazier. Like Tennessee, you can fucking put on some shit without any commission at all. But yeah, we've never had to do that. Like all our events are insured. All our events like have medical staff on hand because I don't want to see anyone get seriously hurt, you know? And unfortunately it is combat sports. So you will have injuries and stuff like that, but it's not like life or death really, you know? Mostly you see like tweaked knees, maybe a bump shoulder, that kind of stuff, maybe a broken bone here and there. And we have EMTs on hand, doctors, that kind of stuff. And we got event insurance. So that way, like if someone tries to sue us, we got that kind of crap covered too. But yeah, we don't have to be regulated by the Florida State Boxing Commission or anything like that down here.
Sweet. Keep on rocking and rolling then.
Yeah.
Last question I have for you. If you had to choose gi, no gi, and what rule set would you use?
Definitely no gi. Gi's boring as shit, and there's way more money in no gi. What rules? That I mean, that's the fucking question of like a lifetime. You know, everybody's trying to get the perfect rule set. We use EBI rules, but even then, that's not perfect, man. I've seen some really exciting points matches because the points end up, if you're down on points, it causes a catalyst to make you move and scramble and make something happen. And that kind of movement normally opens up submissions. So if you're doing sub only and stuff like that, you have to be aware that if a guy wants to go to overtime, he can just sit there and do nothing. We've thought about doing a modified like fight to win EBI rule set where you have judges and there's 3 options, red corner wins, blue corner wins, or we go to EBI overtime. So that way that removes the whole debate of like, what if I dominate a guy during the entire time? But if I was to compete, again, it would be no gi rules, no time limit sub only, because that's the purest form. You're not going to submit me. Like if you submit me, it's pretty hard to do. I haven't been submitted since brown belt. And even then, I was only submitted twice. I think I've only been submitted like 3 or 4 times in competition, So for me personally, that's what I would do. If I'm putting on an event, it's going to be EBI rules or catch wrestling rules. Man, those catch rules are really exciting because the pin forces you to move, so you can't be flat on your back doing nothing. It kind of removes the Emil corpse guard, which I like watching that, but a lot of people don't. So, and it was a perfect example. Like this past weekend, Quentin pulled guard. He showed that you can still play guard in catch rules. You just can't like be stagnant, So I think going forward, we're gonna do a lot more catch matches just because for the casual fan, they understand submit or pin, like everybody grew up watching wrestling. They know a pin wins. They also know a tap out wins. And it's very action paced because you can't be holding still. You're either getting taken down and pinned or you're getting put into a submission. So for fans, I'd say EBI or catch rules. For myself, no time limit sub only and no gi.
Awesome. Love it. For some reason, I knew you were going no gi.
Yeah. Dude, I train to the gi like once a week, but yeah, that's about it. Dude, I got broken thumbs. So like this thumb, I can't even fucking see it on here, but you see how it kind of bends one way out. Yeah, and this one fucking goes completely sideways.
Oh.
Dude,
what was that?
Oh yeah, my hands are all sorts of fucked up between fighting and the gi, and both my thumbs have been broken just from like getting caught in the goddamn gi. So it's just at this point I don't want to. Dude, I do firearm stuff too, so it's like I want to be able to make sure I have a good grip, and when I use my firearms, I do the double thumb over grip, and it's like if I have fucking broken thumbs, it's not fucking easy, So I want to save my joints.
100%. Well, Josh, thank you so much for being so liberal with your time. I appreciate you coming on. We'll be tuning in to Zapatero. Anything else that you want to get out to the fans?
Nah, just fuck flow, guys.
Awesome. On that, we're signing out. Thank you, guys. Enjoy the journey.
Thanks, Josh.
So the journey has begun. If you guys listening to our content today had any kind of value or you were moved in any way, please feel free to subscribe, pass it on, let everybody know that these 2 guys are the truth. They're out here just trying to do good things to make good people. Thanks.